All right. Okay. So now I'm about to read the Kabbalion. The reason why I'm going to use this thought, because I was going to do this anyway. It was a replicated thought. It is May Elon. It is May the 6th, 2024. And the reason why I'm going to go ahead and use the replicated thought is because it corresponds a lot with the Kabbalion. I mean, with the Holy Crown Circle 7 and with Maya, the 11 laws of God. So I'm going to read the Kabbalion, reread it. I've read it before. I've read this book many times, front and back. But I'm rereading it. This one I never complete, and I definitely, when I say master, just know what it's speaking of. And I'm going to skip the at the beginning because Imani and I can read that later. I'm going to start with chapter 1. The Hermetic Philosophy. The Lips of Wisdom. I'm at Formerly Extended Stay, now Admiral Suites. It is about going on 7:30 a.m. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. The Kabbalion. From old Egypt have come the fundamental esoteric and occult teachings, which have so strongly influenced the philosophies of all races, nations, and people for several thousand years. Egypt, the home of the pyramids and the Sphinx, was the birthplace of the hidden wisdom and mystic teachings. From her secret doctrine, all nations borrowed have borrowed. India, Persia, Chaldea, Media, China, Japan, Assyria, ancient Greece, and Rome, and other ancient countries partook liberally at the feast of knowledge, which the Hierophants and masters of the land of Isis so freely provided for those who came prepared to partake of the great stone of mystic and occult lore, which the masterminds of that ancient land had gathered together. In ancient Egypt dwelt the great adepts and masters who have never been surpassed and whose seldom have been equal during the centuries that have taken their processional flight since the days of the great Hermes. In Egypt was located the great lodge of lodges and of the mystics. At the doors of her temples entered the neophytes, I think that's how you pronounce it, who afterwards, as hierophants, adapts, and masters, traveled to the four corners of the earth, carrying with them the precious knowledge which they were ready, anxious, and willing to pass on to those who were ready to receive the same. All students of the occult recognize the debt that they owe to these venerable, venerable masters of the ancient mind. But among these great masters of ancient Egypt, There once dwelt one of whom masters held as the masters of masters. This man is this man, if man, indeed he was dwelt he was dwelt in Egypt in the earliest days. He was known as Hermes Trimidus. He was the father of the occult wisdom, the founder of astrology, the discovery of alchemy. The details of his life story are lost to history, owing to the lapse of the years through several of the ancient countries disputed with each other in their claims to honor of having furnished his birthplace, and this thousands of years ago. So he was the father of occult wisdom, the founder of astrology, the discovery of alchemy. The details of his life story are lost to history, owing to the lapse of the years. Though several of the ancient countries disputed with each other in their claims to the honor of having furnished his birthplace, and this thousands of years ago. The date of his sojourn in Egypt in this in that the date of his sojourn in Egypt in that his last incarnation on this planet is not now known, but it has been fixed at the early days of the oldest dynasties of Egypt, long before the days of Moses. The best authorities regard him as a contemporary of Abraham, and some of the Jewish traditions go so far as to claim that Abraham acquired a portion of his mystic knowledge from Hermes himself. As the years rolled by after his passing from this plane of life, tradition recording that he lived 300 years in the flesh. The Egyptian deified Hermes and made him one of their gods under the name of Thor. So I'm going to read that part again. As the years rolled by after his passing from the plane of life, tradition recording that he lived 300 years in the flesh. The Egyptians deified Hermes and made him one of their gods under the name of Thor. Years after, the people of ancient Greece also made him one of their many gods, calling him Hermes, the god of wisdom. The Egyptians revered his memory for many centuries. Yes, tens of centuries, calling him the scribe of gods and bestowing upon him distinctively his ancient life. Trismegistus, which means the thrice great, the great great, the greatest great, and all the ancient land of the name of Hermes, Trismegistus, was revered, the name being synonymous with the fount of wisdom. Even to this day, we use the term Hermetic in the sense of sacred or secret, sealed so that nothing can escape. And this by reason of the fact that the followers of Hermes allowed the followers of Hermes always observed the principle of sacredcy in their teachings. They did not believe in casting pearls before swine, but rather held to the teaching milk for babes, meat for strong men, both of which maxims are familiar to readers of the Christian scriptures, but both of which had been used by the Egyptians for centuries before the Christian era. In this policy of careful dissemination of the truth has always characterized the Hermetics, even until the present day. The Hermetic teachings are to be found in all lands, among all religions, but never identified with any particular country, nor with any particular religious sect. This because of the warning of the ancient teachers against allowing the secret doctrines to become crystallized into a creed. The wisdom of this caution is apparent in all students of history. The ancient occultism of India and Persia degenerated and was largely lost, owing to the fact that the teachers became priests, and so mixed theology with the philosophy. The result being that the occultism of India and Persia has been gradually lost amidst the mass of religious superstition, cults, creeds, and gods. So it was with ancient Greece, so it was with ancient Greece and Rome. So it was with the Hermetic teachings of the Gnostics and early Christians, which were lost at the time of Constantine, whose iron hands smothered philosophy with the blanket of theology, losing to the Christian church that which was its very essence and spirit, and causing it to grope throughout several centuries before it found the way back to its ancient faith, the indication apparent to all careful observers in the 12th century being that the church is now struggling to get back to its ancient mystic teachings. But there was but there were always a few faithful souls who kept alive the flame, tending it carefully and not allowing the light to become extinguished. And thanks to these staunch hearts and fearless minds, we have the truth still with us. But it is not found in books to any great extent. It has been passed along from master to student, from initiate to hierophant, from lip to ear. When it was written down at all, its meaning was veiled in terms of alchemy and astrology, so that only those possessing the key could read it aright. This was made necessary in order to avoid the precautions of the theologians of the Middle Ages, who fought the secret doctrine with fire and sword, stake, gibbet, and cross. Even so, this day there will be found but few reliable books on the Hermetic philosophy, although there are countless references to it in many books written on various phases of occultism. And yet, the Hermetic philosophy is the only master key which will open all the doors of the occult teachings. And I'm going to stop there. Islam, Islam. Islam, Ilan.